Hello and welcome to the IRN-CRU, an American football podcast made in Scotland by NFL lovers. You are listening to the most recent in our series of division preview crews. This time round, we are looking for the beast from the East. It is the one, the only AFC East. Now, I, of course, am your host, Brian Come At Me Donlan, and I am joined by a full complement of fans from the East who are going to talk us through everything that we've got to look forward to with the year ahead. Now, as always, folks, like, subscribe. You can follow the crew. You can find us on X. We're on Instagram. We're on Twitch. We're on YouTube. We're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. We are wherever you get your podcasts. Remember, like, subscribe, follow along, and keep up to date with everything that the NFL has got to offer. Now, as I say, I've actually got a full panel tonight, which is great. This is 2 for 2 podcasts I've done for previews when we've been able to get every team getting a fan on, which that doesn't always happen. And I sometimes need to pretend that I like teams like the Bucks. So we're going to start off. He's a man that he loves New England now more than ever. Well, maybe not ever. But he certainly likes it now that they keep the balls up to regulation pressure. It is Nick. How are you doing tonight, sir?
Hi, Brian. Thanks for having me on. Yeah, delighted to be here. Really pleased to be here. Sorry, I'm brand new to podcasts and all of this, so a bit off-pop introduction there. You could have opened with somebody else to give me, this is how it goes.
You know, I could have been kind on that. You're right.
Yeah, but I'm a New England fan, so I knew you were going to throw me under the bus at some point. It's just good that you guys still love to hate us.
Hey. Everybody needs a pantomime villain, mate. Don't worry, Casey will take the title off you soon enough, but not quite yet. Not quite yet. Now, you may have seen our next panelist in a less than sober state. He likes to be inebriated and react to his beloved Bills from afar. Now, we're not sure if he puts the buff in Buffalo or the L in Bills, but it is the one, the only Phil. How are you doing tonight, mate?
I'm grand, Brian. Thanks for having me on. It's good to get a chance to chat kind of NFL. Probably not putting the buff in Buffalo, looking at Nick and me. But yeah, here to have a good chat and see how the season goes ahead.
Absolutely. Now, my notes here say that he loves bottles in the sun. Sorry, bottle noses in the sun. Now, you may have heard of this man on the Dolphin UK podcast. He is a Dolphins fan. It is Lee. How are you doing, mate?
Yeah, doing really well. Thanks for having me on, guys. It's good to see everyone else from the division. I'm definitely realizing now that I lack the Scottish accent to be with you guys, but yeah, I'm not even going to attempt to put one on. I'm not that crazy.
So, do you know what we should do then? We should have like a bet where if the Dolphins don't come at least second in the division, Lee has to come back on and do an end of season podcast in an entire Scottish accent for the whole time.
Amazing. I can do that. We'll do it.
Like a blue on ginger beard and stuff as well.
This could so be a thing. Now, that came quite randomly to me, and I quite enjoy that idea now, Lee. Now, you've seen this man on the crew before. He is still the International Fan of the Year. You can still hear him on Gangrene, and somehow, more surprisingly, he still thinks Aaron Rodgers is going to play a full season. It's Fraser. How are you doing, mate?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. It's good to be back on again. I think this is the first time I've ever been on a podcast with someone representing someone from every single rival in the...
Oh, there's also that pause, which happens sometimes. It's okay. This is he's proceeding as smoothly as the Jets' preseason's proceeding. Right. So, with that all said, we're going to start things off tonight with a wee think about how last year went. And really, my question for each of you guys is, in a line, and keeping it brief and to the point. What were your big thoughts of the year for everybody that's listening? We squared away with the Bills and the Dolphins, tied up at the top of the division, 11-6. I'm trying to remember if the Bills took it on head-to-head or if it was divisionals that they took it on. Bills get pipped top, or it could be even better, alphabetical order. What a way to win a division. That's why I'm surprised there's not more teams called Aardvarks. But then the Jets coming. See, to be fair, the Jets coming in 7-10 last year, given their struggles that they had throughout the year, is actually not terrible. And then Nick, speaking of struggles, we might have had the beloved New England Patriots coming in on an incredible 4-13 record. Now, with that, Nick, we'll go for the bottom to the top. What was your one line that kind of sums up your feelings as a Patriots fan as you watched the wonder that was? I'm trying to think of nice things to say about your season, mate. I'm really struggling. I'm sorry.
There was nothing. The only good thing to say about last season is Matt Jones isn't here. It was a bin fire. It was a bin fire. It's an organisation that's been used to winning for 20 years. Like, the drop off was significant across the board. Like, we had two blowouts where we lost heavily around about December, November time. I think it was New Orleans Saints, and somebody blew us out on the road. Maybe the LA Rams, back to back. Apart from that, our defense kept it strong. So I'd probably say that would be or kept us competitive. That would be our highlight of the season. We've retained most of those starters for next year. I think there's good things to come for the D and Foxborough. But yeah, not much else to add to that last season. Other than glad it's over and glad that Matt Jones is gone. That's somebody else's problem now.
I feel bad. I genuinely feel bad for Matt Jones. Like, you just watch him getting leathered for a season.
It could be worse, Nick. I mean, imagine being the team that lost to a Mac Jones last-minute touchdown drive.
Well, that is true. That is very, very true. Glad you said that. Next probably sat there going, "Oh, that was one of my stabs for later." Gone. Then stepping up, Fraser. I think as I say that, right. I promise. I am not going to make many more digs about Rodgers not playing more than 4 snaps. But I can say as a Browns fan, a team that had many quarterback problems last year, I can empathise. I can empathise with quarterback struggles. And I've looked at the year ahead for the Browns, and it looks bad enough. But anyway, the Jets had big issues, particularly at QB last season. You had some of the most exciting prospects, or one of the most exciting prospects in Garrett Wilson. Didn't get up to much because he didn't have a QB to chuck him the ball. But you still came out with a reasonably creditable 7-10 finish. What was your big takes on the year last year?
I think it was pretty obvious when you watch the Jets offensively that they were horrific last year, and it's easy to put a lot of that on Zach Wilson and Nathaniel Hackett. As you said, finishing with 7 wins with that, which I think I spoke to you last time, we had something like 6 games where we scored under 10 points. So you take the positives from that and you just pray that this year God can stay healthy, and there's no reason why you can't, improve on that. The good thing for us is the positives of defence was unbelievable and kind of kept that intact. So it's going to be an exciting year for sure.
Well, it's good. This is great because this is talk about leading me into something seamlessly. From 2 teams where defence was the big saviour of the year, moving on to the next team where I'm not disparaging the Dolphins' defence, but I think it's fair to say the Dolphins' offence was the star of the show. Talk about one of the teams that, Lee, feel free to correct me, the most electric offence in football last year?
Certainly through the first 3 quarters of the season. It may have somewhat tailed off there at the end, but there was a lot of exciting weeks there early in the season. To be honest, it kind of goes under the radar because everyone points back to the 70 points against Denver. But actually, probably the surprise is actually the way they played in week 1 away at the Chargers. Do you know what I mean? Where they just went drive for drive, and it seemed like they had an answer for everything. That, I think, was, kind of the realization this is actually like a legit offense is going to work.
My big things with the Dolphins offense last year is where exactly were you keeping whatever potion that you've been giving Raheem Mostert to revive that man? I speak as a man who thoroughly abused Raheem Mostert shares in his fantasy team last year, and it was an incredible ride. What in the name of black magic was going on there? That was an incredible year from him. And they just like no one's seen that coming.
Oh no way. I mean, I'd love to say here and say, yeah, of course we knew that was going to happen. But I think there's something to be said for the continuity of playing in San Francisco under Shanahan and then following Mike McDaniel and sticking in that same system. I think, you just understand those principles, and it's hard for things not to get a little bit easier in the run game with Tyreek Hill's playing.
That's exceptionally true. There's a very fast man over there. We need to. Oh no, the slow older man has now came. Damn it. Yeah. Right now, for the last bit, we had the Bills sitting on 11-6. Now, regular listeners to the show last year will have the Bills. Now, Phil, I don't know if you'll know this. The Bills were a bit of a. I don't want to say a running joke in the pod, but they were the Bills Super Bowl window opened and closed more times in our pod than a revolving door. As it seemed to be every other week, we decided that was it. The Bills and Josh Allen were done. There was nothing that they could possibly do about it. And then they came out and learned about 4-4. Like, no, we're back, and they're here now. We've still got the bogeyman in our back. That playoff bogeyman has not gone anywhere for the beloved people in Buffalo. But looking back kind of over the year as a whole, what were your big kind of takeaways? Can you take the joy for an 11-6 season, or is it one where you're just still a head shake? No. is it that playoff hoodoo?
In a sentence, London fucked us. We came out week one, and they had the unfortunate event with Aaron Rodgers, and then we kind of steamrolled the Raiders, the Commanders, and the Dolphins, and we're looking really quite good. Went to London and lost Daquan Jones, lost Matt Milano, Elam went down, picked up a few nickels here and there, and then it was just a mid-season kind of car crash. Came back from London, scraped a win against the Giants, lost to the Mac Jones drive, and then lost again to the Bengals, and the worst loss of the entire season was the Broncos. I do a kind of live reaction take on post games from my mate's podcast, and the Broncos was one of our primetime games. So I did a few drams in me, and I just went to town for about 10 minutes saying, season's done, it's over. There's absolutely 0 point in carrying on pushing for this. Let's take the draft, get better picks, retool for next year, and then all of a sudden we get the fluky win against KC because the boy couldn't stay on side, steamrolled Dallas, and then got 3 kind of gritty wins at the end of the season. But the defense never recovered. The amount of injuries we had in our defense. We talk about the monkeying it back at KC. I get angry with the fact that people still say that Josh Allen choked in that game, but he scored 24 points, which is the most that anybody scored postseason against the Chiefs, including the 49ers who went to overtime. But we had a 4th choice linebacker, a guy who pulled off the street, a guy we traded mid-season, the CB1, and just patched up with duct tape and chewing gum. It's incredible that the defence got to the stage it did. Overall, yeah, you're like, we're going to do something. No, we're not. Yeah, we are. No, we're not. And I just kind of wish we just made the call, went, nah, season's done. Let's just tool up again for next year.
Picks. Well, we're gonna on that note, we are going to open with your beloved Buffalo Bills, mate. Now, for just a wee reminder for everybody else, the big things that we're really thinking about at this stage is, what are the big changes that have happened? Who have we seen come in? Who have we seen go? Now, I don't think it would be fair of me, mate, not to go that one of the biggest changes in Buffalo, and gonna have a word with your team, by the way, because you're making my fantasy draft world exceptionally difficult, because I've no idea what your wide receiver room is going to look like. But the big news obviously was Diggs being traded out to the Texans. Now, you will have your own take on this. I'm going to put this out there. I don't think it was a bad move. I think he's cancer. But it does leave a big hole in that offense. So when you think about who are your big... Diggs is obviously gone. What other players have you looked at? What other kind of changes have you seen going out, coming in? What are you expecting for the season ahead with your personnel changes?
Honestly, I think our season next year is going to be either going to be a fallow season or it's going to be incredible. I don't think there's going to be an in between. It's going to be one or the other. we've had 11 or 12 coaching changes over the summer. We've got a new OC in Joe Brady, who, was interim at the end of last season, but he's now had an off-season to set his stall up, get his systems in place. He's brought in Curtis Samuel straight away as his guy. We've got Bobby Babich as a new defensive coordinator, and he's going to be calling plays. Tony McDermott taking a look at the other bits and bobs. And 2 other big coaching changes, I think. Bringing in Jamil Adai from the Miami Hurricanes as our cornerback coach has been really quite interesting to listen to. So Kyrie Elam, who was our cornerback pick, our first round pick from two years ago, has been really a bit of a bit part player, low confidence. And apparently Adai's came in and just built this kid up. And he's been, I know it's only camp, he's been on fire in camp. It's been one of the highlights. So it'll be really quite good to get him back, be an extra pick from this season. And Laurel Curry coming in from the Saints for quarterback coach, something a bit different as well. So lots of kind of change in the backgrounds. But then on the playing side, we've lost 6 of our 8 captains from last season. Mitch Morse at centre, who was just an absolute pillar of Buffalo as a team and a community. Absolute leader on and off the pitch, and it's going to be really hard to replace him. We've got Connor McGovern switching from guard into centre, which we're just not quite sure about. But apparently we brought him in last season, and the plan was he will play guard. So we'll wait and see how that goes. Massive change in the fact that we've lost the safety tandem in Hyde and Poyer. Michael Hyde's all the love in the world for that guy. He's my favourite Buffalo Bill player of this era. You can put your Josh Allen and stuff in your players, but Micah Hyde for me is just incredible. There's still a wee window that he can come back. He's not fully said no. Poyer will be a loss in the sense that, again, of his leadership, although he was slowing down and his body is just broken beyond belief. I don't know if he's attended a training session yet, Lee. I know he missed the first 6.
He missed the last 6. Yeah, he started off training camp. I think he just broke his hand. He was in a club today. But okay. I spoke to someone there. Like, apparently he'll be fine by the start of the season if the rest of his body holds up.
Yeah, see, it's one though. Sorry, Phil. It's one though that, like, what you're saying, that the influence these guys have, not necessarily. Don't get me wrong. You want them in the field or the rest of it, but the influence these guys can have in the back. It's one of the reasons when the Browns let, Jesus, trip down memory lane, when they let Jarvis Landry go, I was devastated. Not for losing Mr. 4 yards of reception, but for losing what he was behind the scenes. And that matters. Yeah. It's a big deal.
Totally. And you think about McDermott and being a Bill, it's all about culture. And if you look at who people we draft, it's not necessarily drafted on traits and stuff. It's how they fit. It's, coming from smaller schools. So like Christian Benford, for example, 6th round pick from Villanova, was our CB2, and an absolutely tremendous athlete. There's that sort of characteristic in the background that you really like. Poyer going and staying in division is a bit annoying because he knows our defensive scheme inside out. So he'll be able to kind of really help McDaniel kind of go, this is how we should attack A, B, and C. We also lost Leonard Floyd, which was 11 sacks, but he was burning out towards the end of the season, so I don't know how much that'll be. Trey White is obviously going to be a massive loss. All pro core, the big ACL, and he tore his Achilles. I still think there's a player there. I think the money was just too much for us. And then Diggs and Gabe Davis, 140 targets going out of your receiver core. Yeah,
no, Diggs. Diggs and Davis are. I'm not trying to besmirch the good name of Gabe Davis, but they are very different people. They are very different things to lose.
But they do different things. You've got Davis is that long, deep threat, really good at blocking. So you miss that again, which it gives you with his blockings. It gives you the underneath a little bit better. Diggs he's. In our statistics, he's the 4th best receiver we've had at the franchise. What he did in 4 years is incredible. He was poor in the playoffs all 4 years. He didn't show up. Towards the end of last season, it just evidently wasn't working. You look at the Dorsey offense before he left; it was probably more efficient. Diggs got more targets. Brady came in and has changed that kind of the shade of the snaps, and Diggs is not happy. And if you listen to how the boys are talking now, there's just a nicer vibe within the squad. There's no need, we have to feed this guy, we've got to throw the ball this way. and that's going to feed into the fantasy questions are going to ask about wide receiver 1. The plan is we're not going to have an X receiver or a Y receiver. It's systems based, and it's just everybody's going to be able to interlink. They're a bit like Dutch total football, where we can just mix and match everywhere. So that's probably the key kind of outgoing things.
You heard it here first, folks. Phil has just called Josh Allen a systems quarterback.
It's going to work. It's going to work.
But that is the thing. And as much as I take it my key a lot, and I love my fantasy, and I always bring it up more than I should, and Keith gets raging with me every time I bring fantasy up. I shouldn't. But this is a thing where Buffalo don't care about your fantasy team. Buffalo care about winning NFL football games. And this is where you look at the wide receiver core that Buffalo have got, and it's hilarious. I can only imagine being a DC. You look at it and you've got, and yeah, you have no superstar. You know, I don't think that's unfair. You've got Khalil Shakir, Keon Coleman, Curtis Samuel, MVS. You've got a whole raft of people who do you double? Who takes the double coverage? Who do you assign particular blocking schemes to? Because Allen could easily use any of them, and surely that's the idea, that you never know who the threat is.
Yeah, I think if you look at our kind of potential 53-man squad at the moment, if you take 5 receivers, there's only 4 locked in. You've got Keon Coleman's obviously the second round draft pick, but our first draft pick of the year. Khalil Shakir, who's going to be an outstanding athlete. Curtis Samuel, who's just a kind of Swiss Army knife of an offensive weapon. And then Matt Collins is another lock. Just a big dude who Josh has really struggled to get the ball to in camp, because Matt's like, no, throw it higher. Just throw it higher than that. I can jump higher than this. And he's like, what? So he's going to be a real good red zone target. Other than that, every single receiver slot is open for grabs. If we carry 5, it's a fight probably between MVS and Terrell Shavers. MVS has been poor in camp. He was poor again on Saturday. Claypool was looking okay at the start, but he's hurt his toe, so poor him, can't play.
As a man who's watched a lot of Chase Claypool, you want no part of Chase Claypool. There's
a player there, and you could probably argue since Roethlisberger, he's not really had a fantastic quarterback to work with. Yeah, you can say to it, but let's get it going, start. I think there's a player there. I think his attitude's the problem more than anything else. Other key players we brought in, obviously with Poyer and Hyde going out, we've got Mike Edwards from the Chiefs.
Yes.
And Cole Bishop is our second round draft pick. Unfortunately, both have been injured an awful lot through camp, so we're probably going to end up playing Damar Hamlin and Taylor Rapp to begin with. Centre, I was going to say we've got McGovern's moving across, but we brought in Clapp from the Chargers. Yeah. And drafted Cedric Van Granger, who was probably one of the only 2 Buffalo guys to come out of the initial preseason match with any sort of kind of positivity. He was really, really good. We've really beefed up our defensive tackles. Austin Johnson from the Chargers, Dwayne Carter's looking really good, so the draft pick. Picked up Travis Clayton as a bit of a kind of project player from the UK, the ex-rugby player, so it gives us an extra practice squad member, which is quite helpful. And Gable Stevenson, the ex-Olympic wrestler, gold medalist.
I see. He's had some great photo ops out because he's got the Olympic gold. And I thought he's had some great PR.
Absolutely, but he just looked completely utterly lost when he hit the football pitch at the weekend, and obviously that's his first time ever playing football. He just looked completely lost. He had one pressure and then just stood still, going, "What's going on here? This is ridiculous."
I can't wait for it. At some point mid-season, he's going to suplex someone. He's going to throw somebody's getting put in a figure 4 leg lock.
As long as it's not a practice squad training session, it's all right. And then the other kind of real key player I think we brought in was Ray Davis, a kind of running back. Again, Joe Brady was banging the drum for us to pick early. And I think it comes into your point earlier on, but how does this team going to work? I think we have a lot of 22 personnel. Our number 1 receiver is going to be Dalton Kincaid without a shadow of a doubt. Yes. He's going to get loads of targets. And I think we're either going to end up with 22 personnel with 2 tight end sets or 2 running back sets, because you're going to have Cook who was like the 4th overall Russian RB last season.
Yeah.
Him and Davis are both good pass catching backs. Try and speak. But as you say, you've got the Shakir, Samuel, Coleman, all just going to mix and match. And then you've got the unicorn as well to kind of contend with Josh Allen.
That's okay. We'll get every single one of his receiving options. Oh, Christ, he's running again.
Absolutely. Was it 4 years in a row with 11 touchdowns and 19 rushing touchdowns, 56 rushing touchdowns in 6 years? Not bad.
He runs like a gazelle. Really tall.
He's just big. He's 6'5", strong,
big, massive guy.
He just doesn't get hurt. He doesn't get hurt either, and if he does, he just plays through it. I mean,
you're not meant to say these things out loud, Phil. You're not meant to
I'm not superstitious. He's fine. He's a Trojan.
Right. Well, tell you, so there's been a lot of changes. You know, I mean, there is, and there's, as I say, the Bills for the last number of years have been, you know, one of, if not, you know, the kind of top contenders in the AFC. It's not this. Yes, we've had, obviously, you go back a few years now, and the Pats were top dog, and it wasn't even a question. But with how things have changed in New England that we'll come on to, Bills have really stepped up. But when you, again, in a one line, mate, when you look at last year, and then you think for the year ahead, what's your big hope for the year ahead for the Bills?
We stay healthy.
See, I think if
the team stays healthy, you can't take, you know, potential Super Bowl off the table. Josh Allen's, as I said, he's a unicorn. He's one of the best people to ever play football. You've always got a chance with him in your team.
I like that. It's a wee bit like I hate to bring them up here, the spit. It's a bit like Casey. Whenever Pat Mahomes is playing, you've got a chance. And I think that is, I don't think it's an unfair comp to say that Josh Allen's in the same boat. You know what I mean? Whenever Josh Allen is healthy and on that field, you've got a chance for him to do something nutty that's going to bring you back. Right, we're going to bring
a wee bit above, though.
Oh, a wee bit. We're going to bring the Bills to a close. I mean, my three closing questions for you, mate. When you look at your schedule for the year ahead, now whenever we do this, we like to exclude divisional games. Divisional games are always tasty for a whole bunch of different reasons. But when you look at your schedule ahead, what is the big game that you've got your eye on as a fan? And then thinking about two players in your team. If you want to see that success, if you want to see dare you dream that ring appearing on someone in Buffalo's finger, who has to crush it? And who have you got your eye on to be your breakout baller for the year, mate?
So our schedule in general is absolutely solid. Our first 6 weeks are just mental. To be fair, he's going to be 1 in 5. For me, the big game is going to be the one we come off our bye against the 49ers. McDermott is 12-2 against Shanahan, and Shanahan cheese in terms of coaches. So he's really effective against them. Also, never lost off the bye under McDermott, so I'm just jinxing it completely now. But I think it's just a chance to play against the 49ers, and just the weapons they have, the team they have, will just be a great kind of late night in Buffalo. In terms of people who I think are going to cruise it, as you kind of said, I think Von Miller's going to smash this season.
That's a big call.
I'm a physio by trade and a kind of lower limb specialist, and did lots of time doing the ACL rehab. And watching how he's moving at the moment is flawless. His chest's almost on the ground again. He's getting that low and he's got that bend back. He's got the mindset. He's just moving really, really nicely. And if we can get some edge pressure generated from this defense, I think that puts us in a really good position. The other player I had was Khalil Shakir. Towards the end of last year, just again a powerful, dynamic runner, underestimated because of his size. And I think he just again will do really well. For my breakout player of the year, Big Greg Rousseau. I think his contract year, he's got the height, he's got the length, he's got the speed, he's got the intelligence, he's got the mentoring Vaughn. He just needs to put it all together. I think he's just going to go off the chain this year. I really do.
Love it. I love the Von Miller pick because obviously, a lot's made of Von Miller and a lot's made of what he can and should be doing. So yeah, we see him step up. It could be scary. Right. Thank you very much, mate. We're gonna shift it on to from the freezing cold of Buffalo down to much sunnier climes in the wonderful world of Miami. Can I say just before we go into Miami, or well, on my point, Miami, do you know one of my favourite things about the Dolphins is how evil their stadium design is? The idea of deliberately designing your stadium to put the away team's dugout in direct Florida sunshine is like that is like full bore Bond villain-esque evil. So how are we gonna win? With the sun's laser beams. It's absolutely genius.
And it's stupidly hot on that side. Like I've been there a couple of times down in the sun. That's not pleasant. Like it's an unpleasant temperature. Like I'm sure everyone has sat here and said, "Yeah, I'd really love to go on a sunny holiday and get some of that nice warm weather." This is beyond that. It's
not in full pads with Von Miller chasing you. Right, okay, Lee. So tell you what, it's much the same routine as ever. Sorry, I'm not just laughing at the idea of Von Miller just chasing folk. What are your kind of big thoughts and changes now? To be fair, there have been changes in Miami, but I don't think I expect to say there's been no what I'm going to call marquee departures. Miami, well, you know what I mean? It's particularly when you think about whenever I think Miami these days, I think offense. And the core of that electric offense for last year is pretty much intact. Mike, I'm now trying to remember if Mike Gesicki left you guys last year or a year before. But the year before. So walk us through it, mate. What are your big changes in kind of personnel or the rest of it? How do you think that's going to impact the Dolphins this year?
I mean, really on the offensive side of the ball, the biggest change is probably Rob Hunt at guard, signed for $100 million in Carolina. Don't think the Dolphins were ever going to go that high on him. I don't think they regarded him as that kind of player, but I'm guessing if you're in Carolina's position, it's easier to maybe pay over the top. So that's definitely the biggest departure. We upgraded the center, bringing in Aaron Brewer. Center play was a real problem last year. With Connor Williams going down multiple times during the year and leaving us. I mean, to be honest, like it was poor roster building to be that thin at center, but that's kind of the way that it played out. But like you say, the core of the offense is back. You know, Tyreek, Jalen Waddle, Raheem Mostert, Devon Achane, like they're all back. Kind of to do the same thing, but all the biggest changes really came on defense with a new defensive coordinator, and Christian Wilkins going to the Raiders for big money. But I think that was kind of inevitable when you realized that they were going to change scheme and they were going to go to that kind of Baltimore scheme where really it's more about rotating fresh bodies as it is having the top guy. So I think it was almost inevitable that he was going to be allowed to walk and that money was going to be distributed elsewhere. Knowing full well
doesn't matter if you've got the top guy if he's exhausted.
And I mean, we found that last year. I mean, they played I think 92% of the snaps last year. Like, there's a reason we came into those last few weeks of the season and into the playoffs. And to be honest, they signed 2 linebackers that came off the couch, hadn't played in 2 years. Like, I could have played by that point. Like, it wasn't good. And I think that's something they're really trying to avoid. So the scheme change kind of necessitated that, but also. The players just absolutely hated. Why is his name literally just escaped my mind? Vic Fangio. Yeah, Vic Fangio. Like the players just hated him. They were so pleased when he's gone. And I noticed during the season, actually, I tell you what, it was in the game against the Jets on Black Friday. The one player you never saw really celebrate unless he was the person who made the play was Jalen Ramsey. And I said to a friend of mine, that guy's not happy. And it looked weird. It kind of stood out, and he was very vocal when Vic Fangio left about being pleased about the fact that he was leaving. So I'm expecting. I think it came to you traded for Jalen Ramsey, you then paid him, and if it comes down to him or a first-year coordinator, not first-year coordinator, but first year for the Dolphins, the players are going to win out, and I think it was pretty well. That kind of sentiment was shared throughout the defense.
It's an interesting one. How big an impact that can make. You know what I mean? It's people have said it with Diggs into Bills. You know what I mean? The people consider him toxic. It's a big worry now that he's in Houston. You know, is he going to take what was that young, exciting offense, and is he going to be that poisonous personality? And if you've got that in your coaching team, that's something we all seen the wonderful, wonderful tales of Jacksonville. And it is, if you've got that personnel that, and I'm not in here to rag on Vic Fangio or the rest of it, but if you've got that personality clash where for reason, and it doesn't really matter what the reason is, that they are clashing with the player group that they're trying to get the best out of, you are on an absolute height to nothing. It makes everybody's life so much harder.
Yeah, I think it really came to a head when Jalen Ramsey wanted to go. He wanted to travel with somebody's number one, and I can't remember who it was off the top of my head. But I think it came to a point where Vic Fangio just came out and said, "No, you're staying on the left hand side of like that's it. You're not traveling." And I think he was like, "This is not the best use of my skills." And yeah. I mean, he's absolutely right, and I think we'll see a change in that this year. And I think it's not a coincidence that you went from someone like Vic Fangio, who is kind of super old school, to someone who's a little bit maybe more modern thinking and can relate with the players a little bit better. Someone who played himself. So in Anthony Weaver from Baltimore. Also, I think that I don't think it's been really talked about. So I could be completely wrong here. So feel free to laugh me off the show. But
brace everyone.
I think a good reason that you brought him in was like, we don't really match up well with the Bills. So we took 2 losses against the Bills. That's not that's just the thing. But the loss of the season was really the one on the road in Baltimore. Came from 4 touchdowns behind the year before to beat Baltimore in Baltimore. This year, absolutely had it handed to us, and it's the defense that's given us the most trouble. So I don't think it's a coincidence that you find that it's that guy, a guy from that defense coming in, where you've now got camp to go against it. You're kind of understanding the inner workings of it more than just kind of seeing it on tape.
Well, it is, because it's one of, again, as we said, the big story of the Dolphins last year was how electric that offense was. And it was, you've got Tyreek, you've got, particularly when Achane was healthy, it's speed. And then you go and you play the Ravens. That was in Baltimore, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was in Baltimore around Christmas time. Yeah.
Aye. And you only managed to put up 19 points.
Yeah,
and it's
most of it's coming garbage time.
Tyreek
dropped they exchanged scores to start the game, and then Tyreek dropped a wide open touchdown, which was out of character. I know he's done it in the past in Kansas City, but it become far less frequent in Miami. But I mean, he dropped a wide open touchdown, and it seemed to just throw everything off the rails, and nothing really came back after that. There's no excuse, but it wasn't a pretty outing, and I don't think it's a coincidence that you kind of wanted to understand exactly how they went about doing that. Again, probably the same reason they brought in a Jordan Poyer. They know the same thing that Phil said. He's not going to play the entire season. That's not really on the cards. I wish he would. Love him as a player. Hated playing against him. But probably part of that is to be in the mindset of, hey, you guys beat us. We want to kind of know what the mindset was on the other side of the other sideline, other than it's hot.
Do you know what I'm loving that you brought it. I'm now just thinking more and more about this narrative with you and the Ravens, because you go from, and it's fascinating when you think about it, when you go from, as I say, the electric offense that you've then went and taken some of the defensive coaching staff that stopped your electric offense and then added them to shore up a defense that let the Ravens put 21 points on you, not once, but in 2 individual quarters. So it's just, there's so many layers to that when you think about how, hopefully for the Dolphins, how savvy a move that is, which is really something.
Yeah, I mean, I hope that's right. I hope that's exactly the reason that it's happened, to try and mitigate some of those problems. But I'm guessing we're going to find out pretty soon here.
I'm imagining there's somebody in Miami listening to us going, "Really, we did that?" And I've just came up with this amazing moment of just genius. Okay, we'll tell you what. So thinking about that, so kind of move things on again. The same idea for yourselves. You know what I mean? Ostensibly, a season that started really well for Miami, it kind of tailed away at the end. But at the end of the day, it's still an 11-6 season. But when you look at the season you had, you look at what you're hoping for the season that's coming ahead of you. What's the big things that you've kind of got in your head thinking that's what I want to see?
I mean, I can say the same thing as Phil, though. I just want to stay healthy because I genuinely believe that if we'd stayed healthy at the end of the year, that playoff game wouldn't have been on the road. It'd have been a home playoff game. You win the division. I mean, I think that game against Buffalo at the end of the season, was there for the taking. Chase Claypool just ran the most hideous route at the end of that game, like just ugly. But I say by that point, I think that the season was set up really well, where the offense got off to a really hot start, whilst defense under a new coordinator kind of found its feet, got going, and kind of improved throughout the season. But as it was getting to its peak, where you kind of go from that offense wins games to defense wins championships, the defense started to get hurt real bad. You lose Jalen Phillips up in that terrible field in MetLife, and then you lose Bradley Chubb in a game where, let's be honest, that's a coaching blunder. He shouldn't have been in the game at that point. That game was out of control. I understand from the way Mike McDaniel made his point was, hey, at this point we were pulling the offense, and the change of possession happened so quickly that it didn't happen. But that can't really happen. Not at that level. It's cost you way too big. I mean, he's obviously still on the PUP list now. Jalen Phillips comes off the PUP list today, which is obviously huge news. But I think if we'd stayed healthy, we would have transitioned from a team that was all offense to a team that could grind out some wins on defense. But again, you got players coming off the couch after 2 years to play in stupid degree weather in Kansas City. It's just a recipe for disaster.
And it is a big one where, that is a big point. And I don't mean this in a flippant way, but it's Miami play well in Miami. And I know we kind of opened the segment talking about, putting the opponents in the bacon sun and all the rest of it. But when that's the kind of climate you're accustomed to playing in, and let's not kid ourselves on, it's the AFC. Your big teams are going to be coming from, realistically, the AFC North or Kansas City. So if you can't get yourself in a position in the regular season to secure some of those home playoff games, you're going to the cold. Yeah. You are going to the freezing cold North to try and play some of the most important games of the season. And you really, from Miami's point of view anyway, I really thought that's something you're desperately trying to avoid.
And I think that's why they brought back the running room the way they did, was because I think they want to be able to go into the cold knowing that it's not conducive to a high-flying offense. Doesn't really matter. I mean, people can say that that's on tour, or it's... To be honest, no one really wants to go play in that weather. There's just teams that are better at it than others. So, I mean, let's be honest. If we could all go and play in a neutral, in a dome, and let the best team win, that's probably the best result as a fan. But
you're building a dome.
Yeah, exactly. And
there's a reason. There is a bloody reason. They're looking at building a dome.
It kind of works both ways, doesn't it? Like you say, it's an advantage, but then it's also, it can be a disadvantage because those games turn into games that you don't necessarily want to be a part of. And I think, you brought in a couple of bigger backs. Chris Brooks gets healthy. He's a power back, but then they also went and got the SEC leader in yards for carries. So I think they are intent on having a solid run game that they feel can go on the road when it has to. Mm-hmm. But like I say, last year fell apart when you couldn't beat the Bills at home. I think it was a Saturday night game in the end, but in what was a poor game, I thought from both sides. To be honest, I thought both sides did the best job of trying to not win that game as possible. I just didn't think it was either side's best showing. But I was actually funny that Phil said you mentioned that you would rather have taken the picks at some point during the season. There was a point where I thought that we were so hurt that actually losing that game probably helps our schedule better this year than a playoff run with serious injuries across the board. I mean, I don't think they were recoverable injuries. At that point, Xavier Howard had gone down as well. So you've lost just the second best corner on the roster. Your best two pass rushers down. You got no center. I think at that point I was probably looking at this season and saying, "Hey, let's try and get things right now."
Yeah. Right. Okay. Well, we will tail things up here, and I will ask you, sir, the same three questions that I asked the wonderful Phil. When you are looking at the schedule coming ahead of you, what is the big non-divisional game that you're looking at and you think that is the one for me? That is the one you're excited about. Who do you think is gonna crush it for your beloved Dolphins, and who have you got your eye on making a breakout this year?
So the game I was looking forward to, and this has got nothing to do with records or standings or anything like that. I can't wait to see the Dolphins play the Packers on Thanksgiving.
Nice.
I love Thanksgiving football. I love everything around it. I love primetime games. I know they suck for us fans here in the UK, but I just kind of love the aura of it. I love being the team on national TV. I enjoy that sort of stuff. So yeah, I got that Packers game. It's also a chance to kind of maybe go to a less pleasant environment and try and start changing some narratives. Obviously, Tua and Jordan Love are always going to be kind of hooked together, signing their extensions on the same day, playing in a similar, a Shanahan tree offense. I don't know. It seems like a good matchup. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, I think the Packers are a team that I'm very excited about the Packers this year. I think they're going to be really, really interesting all year. So who do you think? Who have you your eye on then, players-wise, mate? Who's going to crush it? Who needs to crush it for your Dolphins this year? And who do you think is going to break out and show us all what they're made of?
I've got complete faith in the offense. So I'm going defense, and I think Jalen Ramsey will go back to being a game changer. I think in training camp, you've seen him moving around a lot more, playing inside, playing outside, playing at safety, just being used as a chess piece. I think that's what he's built to do. I think it brings the best out of him, and it, as you said earlier, it just plays into his confidence. So, I mean, I'm looking forward to that. It seems like such an easy thing to say, but I don't think, even coming off the injury, I don't think we saw the best Jalen Ramsey last year.
Okay, and who have you got your eye on? Who's that breakout star going to be? Because you're not having Jalen Ramsey as a breakout candidate.
No, but this is also going to sound ridiculous, especially from a fantasy point of view. Devon A-Chain is going to change the way you look at running backs in Miami. I think he will surpass Raheem to be running back one pretty quickly. And
I'm going to pressure you. Which week? How long is it going to take before Devon A-Chain is running back one in that offense? Because I've got an answer in my head, and it's not a big number.
I was going to say 3.
Yep.
I've got nothing against Raheem whatsoever. I just think if the younger guy starts to show, and judging by what they're doing, I mean, they're basically having him run wide receiver routes in practice, and he has the hands to do it. He's running deep ins, deep outs. He's running comeback routes all over the field. I think he might become one of the most versatile pieces in the NFL.
Yeah, it's really hard to disagree. Devon A-Chain is. I think I speak for most football fans, possibly not the other 3 here for divisional reasons. That everybody was disappointed when we seen A-Chain go down last year, because you seen it and it was just looked so electric, and you're like, wow, and then we didn't.
That's what I mean. It's like 800 yards.
That's quite good in week 3, because that would sound like more starts had a really bad week 2, which would be a terrible shame.
Oh no, I think it's because you're passing in week 2.
Oh, there it is. Quite nice. Right. Okay, we're gonna shift it on. We're gonna shift it up the coast and move to New England. Nick, now, obviously, the big story is quarterback. You know what I mean? QB, the Patriots. I've actually lost track of who's winning your quarter. I thought I haven't. I thought I'd seen conflicting stories on who was leading your quarterback room, but I have not. I'm talking mince. So Nick, when you look at your Patriots, people that have came in, people that have came out, what are your big changes, and what do you think they're going to mean for the Pats moving into this season?
I think the big change is actually in the front office before we look at QB.
We go
24 years with Bill at the helm. His tentacles go everywhere in that office. How long did we run without a manager, a GM? It was a dual role. We had complete freedom. We dominated the division for 24 years with that organization behind us. Couldn't draft a wide receiver to save ourselves in all that time. to a degree, stood on the shoulders of giants, of Tom Brady and at QB. But people like the lad was saying from Miami there that defense wins championships. For me, organizations win championships, and that's the big thing that New England have all over everybody else in this call. Is we're an organization that's used to winning things consistently. And I kind of I did all my notes. I sent a picture into the group chat, put it up on the wall, and then like my competitive nature comes in, and I'm just like, I just want to go fuck that off. Like, what we're looking at, we've got Tua with a headache. He'll go out with a headache. Then Hill will be at a baby shower, and the party boys will blaze out again. And then we've got the alcoholics up in Bills, can't get to the games because it's snowing too much. And everybody tells us Josh Allen's the second coming of Christ, but never delivers. And they'll go middle of the road, and it'll be, it's next year again. And the Jets get QB and on Aaron Rodgers running about. He'll disappear for the rapture of some mental thing happening with American politics. All we need to be is a little bit more consistent on offense. Listen, that's me. That's because you made me sit for 20 minutes. I'm just like, nah, fuck it. I'm going out now. Our big changes are across the board, right? Like, jokes aside, we're a team that's in transition. The bit that I find genuinely interesting is because of that organizational structure, that inbred, belief in winning, that culture of winning. Is it a 3 to 5 year project, or does it happen quicker because of the culture that's in that clubhouse? That's interesting. That is for me.
Do you know, it was funny you say that, because I wonder if you were going to say it, and if you were going to make me say it, and I feel sick that I need to say it. The Patriot Way.
Oh, I had that. I've got that later.
Is that one of the notes?
Yeah.
But it is, like, okay, there is, it's as much as I'm being daft about it, it is thing. As you say, culture is important because it does mean a lot to organizations when you're used to winning. God knows I've seen it for long enough with the Steelers. And it is that idea that it does dig you out of holes that you've no business digging yourself out of. But now, have the vestiges of that with Bill leaving gone, and does that mean that you're now, do you need to find a new way? This is the way. As a Mandalorian.
I think it's the way 2.0. Genuinely, like, you've got Mayo, who's a disciple, coming in. There's consistency throughout the team captains as well. We're losing Slater. Like, love that guy. Best special teamer ever in the NFL. There's nobody can touch him. An exceptional athlete and a great leader in the dressing room. So I think there's a lot of that culture transitions into a new way of doing it. But you see the stories coming out of New England. It's Bill's old, in the locker rooms, it was "do your job." That was the catchphrase for New England. All of that's down. It's new language. All of those subliminal things the Americans buy into, like making a difference in the message in the changing rooms and stuff's changed. It's going to be really interesting. I think Van Pelt's a really interesting choice at OC. Pairing him up with the quarterback whisperer Jacoby. I don't think we see a lot of Drake May. I think he's the next year starter. I think he'll be used sparingly. And I think that's, for me, that's predominantly driven off the fact that our O-line is still in disarray. At the weekend, the win against the Panthers, there was one drive with an O-line with May behind it that was meant to be the starter. Didn't look anything at the starting O-line. Didn't look anything spectacular. And then, Jared came out after the game and said it's still in construction. I think you'll see more. To be clear, Drake May is our franchise quarterback, but he's going to learn and have time to develop into that role. I think Joe Milton's been an exceptional pick. Now, we all know from his background at Tennessee and Michigan before that Joe Milton on a practice field and in practice isn't quite what you get in a game. But if we're working with the mechanics on him and we're working with his composure, maybe the pro setups where he's going to thrive and come through. I think his movability after the ball's snapped with an O-line that's crumbling is going to give him that opportunity more than it is to Drake for the long-term future of the club. And then that leads us nicely into what we've thrown to downfield, because can we sign a wide receiver? Like, we just throw money at him.
Oh no, he left.
Yeah. Nobody. Juju Hoo. What did he contribute? Honestly, can't sign we can't get. Can't make a splash in big free agency. Can't make a splash in trade. So we're left looking at what's on the board. I think what's really interesting about the Juju is what the message was. We cut him because we just don't want to play him. We want to give time to our young wide receiving core. We'll talk about who I think could be standouts and surprises. The wide receiving core, mixed reviews coming out of camp, but this is their time to get the practice, make the mistakes, get the bad reviews. It could go either way. The bit where we've got stability, the one piece where we've got stability versus last year is defense. There's a few changes. It's like for like. Really, I don't see any big splashes there. Jabril Peppers, for me, absolute standout last season, and he's a mean motherfucker. He sets the tone of that D. Judon, I actually think he hangs about for 3-4 weeks into the season. If we go one way and we're competitive and we've got an opportunity, we might see an extension. If we go the other way, we cash in, pick up maybe a second, third round pick for him, and then we've made our choices.
Do you think, because this is an interesting thing for me with the Patriots this year, because with all the changes that and I'm going back to Brady leaving, because we've just seen change after change after change after change in New England. With all that and the fact that, you've got, and I love Jacoby Brissett, but Jacoby Brissett's currently listed as your QB1, and you're no listing Jacoby as your QB1 unless you really, really have to. Yeah. Does New England more or less have a bit of a gimme this year? You know what I mean? Yeah, okay, if you go like horrendously poor, the fans are going to be getting antsy and all the rest of it. But if you manage to pull together 5-6 wins out of the year, and then is that something where your coaching team, all the back office, they say, look, this was just a year to let us see what have we... Well, Jacoby's going to run the offense as Jacoby can. He is a perfectly serviceable QB. But it gives us a chance to see, what is Kendrick Bourne going to be like when he's actually healthy again? What do we have in all of these young wide receivers that they're putting that stock in and hoping they can develop something out of? And yeah, your defense is going to keep you in games. I don't think anybody would say otherwise about New England. Your defense will keep you in games a lot. But is it a chance for that the offense can kind of take its time and bed in properly?
I think that's the plan, 100%. Like the O-line needs heavy development. Mm-hmm. Like Jacoby's there to bring Drake May up as the franchise quarterback. The interesting bit as I circle back is like, how does Joe Milton fall into that? I think the opportunity is there for him to almost do what Brady did to Bledsoe all those years ago and steal the job, because he could come in and he's got like his arm talent is immense. Don't know anybody that's seen his movement when he was scrambling for the 37 or the 27-yard reception to the Jackson lad against the Panthers. His field awareness is exceptional as well. He's been working hard on his mechanics, and this is a bit where I wanted to leak into. After the game, the Patriots way came through, and that's where that consistency, he just pivoted every answer straight onto his coaching staff, straight onto the support round about him. There was no me, which never flies in New England, and that's the bit where we've got that consistency coming through again. It's a really interesting time. Like defense, I think we were on track to be a top 10 defense last season. We lost Judon and Gonzalez. Gonzo's my boy, absolutely love him. Like, went and changed his number from 6 to 0, so I've got my 6. So I'll be straight back onto DH gate because I ain't paying what the NFL want. I expect him. I expect Gonzo to have a Pro Bowl season this year. I think he's an exceptional talent. D will keep us in games. The big unknown for us is what does Van Pelt do with that QB room and that wide receiver room. He's been exceptional at drawing up plays, but he's never been a play caller. So that'll be interesting to see what happens there.
Very. And you kind of, I was about to kind of move us on and ask what your kind of hopes are for the new season, but you've kind of addressed that for us. So tell you what, we'll wrap up our chat about New England this one. So again, as I've asked the other guys, when you look at your schedule for the year ahead, What's the big game that you're looking at outside of the division, thinking that's one I've got my eye on. I'm going to make sure, even if that's on at crazy o'clock in the morning, that I'm up for that one. And then who do you see as your players that are going to crush it for you this year? And who do you think is going to be New England's breakout baller, mate?
So listen, selfishly, I'm just going to say the Rams in November because I'm going. So,
hey, that's good reason to watch a game as enemy.
That's it. I went to Germany last year. I've been over to New England before. I'll be down in London for the London games against the Jags, where we can laugh at Matt Jones as a collective stadium. But yeah, for me, that's a standout game. You know, and the other ones, like, there'll be games that stand out. We fell off, like, you know, the nation's love or hate relationship. We don't get the headline. I'm exactly what Lee was saying. Like, there's nothing better than being Sunday night football and it's your team. The build up, you know, the commentary, the depth of engagement that you get. It's just fantastic as a UK fan to learn. You know, I'm by no way as knowledgeable as the other guys on the call. Like, the amount that I'll learn when my team are on headline, you know, showcase football is significantly more than when I'm just picking up the Patriots feed on fully affiliated football channels and not on any dodgy So yeah, but you know, Rams in November for me.
Cool. Who's going to be the big player? Who's going to crush it this year, mate?
So listen, on D, Gonzo, I think he's going to have an absolute standout. He clamped some big names in the first 4 games of the year, right, fresh out of rookie camp, clamped them. Tyreek Hill didn't get a sniff of the ball when they were playing against Miami. He is, unless he's too busy chasing girls and trying to put babies in them off the pitch, he's a handful. So Gonzo for me is a special talent at D. I like him a lot. Frank and playing onto the O, I think like Javon Baker and Polk were 2 wide receivers, 4th and 6th round, I think, 4th or 5th. No, 2nd and 4th round. I think they're going to be huge, big ball winners. They get great separation, good hands. They just need to get some NFL experience under them. This is where my optimism. Come on, I'm not fan. I'm the same, like, you know, same as Scottish football. Just living optimism my whole life. Like,
I hope it kills you.
Just go one way. Like, the people, there has to be hidden gems. There has to be people that become wide receivers that the league covet. Why can there not be the 2 that we've got this year? Because we've had 24 years of picking shite at that position. And then, like, I like Jaheim Bell, 7th round pick. I think he'll ball out on special teams. On the tight end role. I think he'll be really interesting to watch that and see what he does. I think he'll beat out Wilcox to the number 3 slot and then be pushing Austin Hooper, our kind of veteran signing, to be number 2 behind Hunter Henry. And then I think a special mention, because I love special teams, is the 7th rounder Isaiah Bolden, who you'll see taking some returns and stuff like that. So he ran a 40 in 4.33 seconds, and he's a big unit of a boy. I think you'll see him be the next New England special teamer that everybody around the league goes, oh, how have we missed out on that?
Cool. Okay, thank you very much. Right, we are going to move on to our final team of the podcast. Fraser, we're going to come to you in your beloved Jets. Now, do you know what? I'm not going to talk about it. I'm going to let you talk about us, because I feel like the last time you were on, all I did was slag you off for Rodgers. And I feel I've got kind of penance to pay. So when you look at the Jets and you look at the personnel, you can walk obviously through changes and stuff that's been made. But all I will say with Rodgers is his fitness the personnel change that you're really looking at for your year ahead?
Yeah, I think it has to be. It's like you're getting it's like a new signing, isn't it? Like, we seen nothing of him last year, so in reality, it's like a free agent pickup or a trade pickup for us. So he's going to make a massive difference. I think when you look at the rest, I think all the changes have vastly been on offense, and quite rightly so, because that defense didn't really need much changing. to be honest, we've lost a few people, which I'll talk. Offense for me has been the big change, and I think especially an O-line, which was needed. It feels like now for about the last 20 years, every year seems to be the same. It's either the OC's fault or the O-line's fault, and it's nice to see them make moves in the O-line. Obviously, you brought in Tyron Smith and Morgan Moses, both probably about 100 years old combined age, but both solid players when they're healthy. We brought in Simpson at left guard. At left guard from the Ravens, who was obviously a massive upgrade to what we had in Tomlinson, which was a total disaster from the moment we picked them up. Obviously, we'll be getting AVT back. It's like another signing again there. He's a Pro Bowl caliber player when he's healthy at guard. And obviously, Tickman playing centre had flashed last year as probably one of the better O-linemen out of everybody we had. So, yeah, a lot of changes in offense. And as I say, Rodgers coming back changes everything anyway, regardless.
When we think of it, sorry, mate. When we think about changes, and I need to bring it up, and I'm sorry about this one. When we think about changes, as you said, the Jets. This is weird to say. So we've been saying defense has been great all pod, but the Jets' defense last year was great. But we do now know that Hassan Reddick is wanting out. Now, is he wanting money? Is this kind of something he's using? To be fair, he was paid recently, so I don't think he's wanting money. If he were to go, in the world of speculation is what it is, and we know how terrible a place that can be to try and live, but if he were to go, do you reckon that's something that does it light a fire under your front office? Do they need to go out there and try and pick somebody up? Or do you look at the depth chart and go, do you know what? Next man up. Hassan Reddick's a hell of a player. Nobody's going to say differently. But next man up, and we're going to keep rolling, and it'll be fine.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Hassan Reddick is going to make a massive difference to that defense if he does end up staying. That said, we lost Bryce Huff in free agency. He was more of a kind of rotational piece. We obviously lost Franklin Myers, who was a good player for us. But in reality, we've brought in players as well. We've brought in Kinlaw, who's looked really good for us so far, and even in camp, he's been an absolute monster. We picked up Leonard the third, I think he's called, as an undrafted free agent, and he's been solid. And even the other night, he was probably one of the best players on the field for us. We've got Will McDonald, obviously, there now in his second year, who could hopefully jump. So, in reality, in that D-line, the pieces that we've lost have all been, as I say, the way the Jets play, they rotate the players so much that I don't think it's going to have that much a negative effect on what we've seen last year. Obviously, having Reddick's going to make that D-line even better. But to be honest, he's got 1 year left, £14 million contract. Whatever the stories are, whether it was true that he said he would play on this contract and earn a new contract, or whether that was all lies and he's been wanting paid from the start, who knows? But Jets hold all the cards here. Let's not forget, he's been fined, I think, nearly $2 million already. He's basically void his contract, and he's going to basically be on the same deal, 1 year deal, carried over to next season. So Jets hold all the cards. We gave a 2026 third round pick for him. So to be honest, as much as I want him out there, if he doesn't want to be,
it's
around eventually, because he's only going to affect himself.
Yeah, it's a wee bit like we spoke about earlier when we talked about culture and all the rest of it. Except you do have a proper want-away player, and particularly if it's one of the big names in your team, be it offense, defense, special teams, whatever, it has a big impact. Then it's I would agree with front offices that really get in front of things like this and say, do you know what? If you're going to really be causing a problem about this, we're just going to get you out, and we're going to run with what we got. We're going to make it better. A big question that I've got, just because it tickles me, with the Jets in offense, I'm loving that, because I just don't think it's going to be true, that Mike Williams is being listed as your wide receiver too. And I wonder if anybody's told Aaron Rodgers that. because I don't really think universe that Aaron Rodgers, a man who is, and I don't mean this as a dig actually, a man who's famous for passing to receivers he trusts, passing to receivers he's got chemistry with, all of a sudden deciding Mike Williams is the guy over somebody like, okay, we know about Garrett Wilson, he is what he is, but over somebody like Alan Lazard. So it's like, do you see Mike Williams just being in there, just a wee bit of that vet wide receiver presence, or do you think there is a big role being carved out for him in the Jets offense this year?
Yeah, I mean, obviously Lazard was awful last year. Let's not deny that. He was terrible. I think he was more focused on our type of football than actual NFL football. But I can see why Williams is listed as a wide receiver too. I'm still under the impression that the Jets are going to make a big trade for another wide receiver if they're doing well before the trade deadline anyway. Obviously, the rumours out there, Devontae Adams is always going to be out there. I don't think Corley's going to have much to do this year. I think he'll be mainly kind of like kick returner, punt returner. So I don't think Gibson and Brownlee are good enough. So if you're going to rely on Williams and Lazard as your wide receivers 2s and 3s, I think we could be in a bit of trouble there. So I still think there's moves to be made there yet, and potentially see Garrett Wilson drift more into a slot role and have two proper outside guys. So have Williams, and say they did go for, say, Devontae Adams, have them two outside with Garrett in the middle, which would be matchup nightmare for anybody. But yeah, wide receiver is a bit of a concern for us right now, but I think a lot of it will be took away by our run game anyway. I think people are underestimating how good potentially this Jets run game could be this year. Braylon Allen, a draft pick, is an absolute monster. He is. I was banging on the door for him before the draft and was made up when we got him. And he's going to shock a lot of people. Everybody talks about Breece Hall. He's going to be the guy, and he is going to be the guy. He's going to be the main guy, but people are going to see it.
Thunder and Lightning tandem.
Yeah,
Braylon Allen is an absolute beast. It's
going to be unreal to see Allen out in that field. Like, even his game the other night, I know he's playing against second and third stringers, but he was just trucking everybody all over the place for when he was on the field. So that's what I'm kind of excited about. As I say, the Reddick situation, you know what? It is what it is. It is good if he stays, if we get him out there. But at the end of the day, I don't think that D is any worse off than it was last year, and it was quite comfortable. So, yeah, apart from that, though, there's not really been much changes. There's not really been any backroom changes. I think Rodgers getting injured gave everybody a pass in reality. But this is a year they've got to do it, and if they don't, I think there'll be a lot of changes. And it would not surprise me if Rodgers doesn't last the season, that he could maybe be one of the changes at the end of this season as well.
It's one, except and it's funny, because as you say, I totally agree with you. I think Rodgers goes down, and literally the entire Jets organization just went mulligan. This is a freebie team. Do we want? I like Salah as a head coach. Everything I've ever seen Salah kind of put out, I don't know, I couldn't put my finger in why. There's just something about him that I look at and I go, I quite like the cut of your jib. There's a weird phrase. But if Rodgers is healthy, and if the team underperforms, and Rodgers is Rodgers, and that's fine. He is 40 years old. There is a reason players tend not to play that long in this league. Yes, Tom Brady's Tom Brady. And Aaron Rodgers is an incredible player. But if he doesn't have the magic anymore, do you get to pin it in Aaron Rodgers, the legend that it is? Or is fundamentally he'll retire, because I don't see why he wouldn't at the end of a poor season if he played the full one. And then the heads still roll potentially after that.
Yeah, it's a tough one. It is a tough one. As you say, I like Robert Saleh as well, and there's no denying that Robert Saleh has done a lot for this defense. Mm-hmm. It's his defense at the end of the day. My only concerns with Robert Saleh is he tends to not fully tell the truth during any interviews he has to do with injuries or players in general, and that's where I think he kind of lets himself down a bit as a head coach. He's not quite grasped how to deal with the media side of it, which is tough. Fair enough. He's in New York. It's always going to be tough for anyone there. But I mean, it's a tough one. I like him, but I've always liked having offensive-minded head coaches. So for me, it would be a tough one, but I think if Salah goes, then Joe Douglas has got to go, and then you've got to reset the whole thing. And do we really want to do it again?
Pull up for picks.
Oh.
So, it's always scary. Somewhere Stu's delighted to hear me suggest another team blows it up for picks. Right, okay, mate. We've kind of covered again. The Rodgers chat does kind of cover the hopes for the new season. When we think then, looking ahead, same kind of 3 questions to close us out. Then we're going to talk division standings, guys. What's the game you're looking at, mate, that you think that's the big one that I've got my eye on? And then who are your 2 players? Who's going to crush it? Who's going to be the big man for the team for the year? And who's that breakout baller you've got your eye on?
So when it comes to games, there's quite a few. I'm going to a few games, so I don't want to be biased and pick them games. But I think the big one for me is got to be the opener against the 49ers, just because of Rodgers, because of how good the 49ers are, because it's an away game. But I think the big thing off of that as well is the schedule we've got after it. We play the Titans, the Patriots, no offense, and the Broncos. To us, they're all beatable. So if you start that first game the way we say we did by beating the Bills last year, it changes your season. It changes your season. So I'd say the 49ers is probably the game that I'm looking forward to the most. Big player. I think I say it all the time, I've got to go with Breece Hall. I mean, last year just showed, coming off a serious injury in his rookie year, to come back and do what he did last year behind that O-line with Zach Wilson as a quarterback, with Hackett as your OC. I think he's done a phenomenal job, and I think if everybody stays healthy this year, he's going to absolutely tear it apart this year, and he'll be, by the end of the season, considered one of the top 3 in the league at the position, I think. As for kind of like breakout kind of type player, I think probably Sherwood, our linebacker. Not many people know about him. He's slowly each year progressing. I think Mosley's done a great job of kind of taking him under his wing and showing him the way. Mosley's probably not got much longer left, so I'm interested to see what kind of role he can have this year.
Mm-hmm. That's good. I like one that's a proper breakout. It always makes it a bit interesting to somebody for us that don't follow the Jets as closely as you do to keep a wee eye on. Right, we are sadly drawing this pod towards a close, guys. So our last talking point of the evening, we're going to rattle this one quickly. What do you think your team's record is going to be? And this is going to be quite good, because if people really disagree, it's interesting. So we'll go through it the same way we did before. We'll come back to Buffalo. We'll rattle through Miami, the Pats, and then finish up on the Jets. And I'll pull together a wee table based on what you guys think, and we'll see how you see yourselves shaking out. Now, the task that you have, guys, is not to be as irritating and boring as we were on the AFC North pod, because we all basically agreed, and it was extremely dull. So, Phil, kick us off, mate. How do you see the Bills finishing the season? What's your win-loss going to look like? What kind of do you see a postseason in your future?
I got a reaction with 9-8. Just given the amount of changes we've got, the difficulty of the schedule initially, we've got no space to build into the season. It's got to be hit the ground running. So I think we've got a few losses coming quite early doors, maybe make the season a bit hard to come back from. It's a winning record. I can see 3 teams in our division having a winning record. I can see the teams in the North having a winning record. It's going to be really on the cusp if we make the playoffs, to be quite fair. It's my gut feeling.
Okay, it's an interesting take. I've got more faith in your Bills than that, I'll be honest with you, mate.
Mate, I'm Scottish. We're nearly all Scottish. My football team is mince. All my sports teams are mince, apart from the Warriors. So I'm just used to getting my heart crushed. It's easier to set the bar low. You cope with things, and if it goes a bit higher, you get the whiskey out and you have a great time.
Bonus time, love it. Okay, Lee, what about your beloved Dolphins? Where do you see it shaking out for yourselves?
I actually think we get another win on last year. I got to 12 wins.
Ooh, a biggie.
Yeah, I don't think I can point at an area team and say we've got significantly worse. The defense, maybe you could say a position here or a position there, but I think overall the scheme is going to account for the deficiencies. I think it's done kind of with a plan. I don't think it's just, hey, you let this go walking. We're going to hope for the best.
Okay, and right, so if you're 12-5, closing the year out, you're going to be in the postseason. Do you see it? Do you see it being a deep run? Do you dare to dream, Lee?
I predict Super Bowl every year because why the hell not? Hey, we all hope our team goes to the Super Bowl. I've not felt as good about the Dolphins as I have about this year's team. I just think they are progressing in the right way. I still think they're moving forwards. It's all going to come down to how many of those playoff games you can get in, not in awful weather,
not freezing
like,
cold.
Even if it's like ambient, like it'll be fine, but not in like people dying in the stands cold like it was last year. Like that,
I will accept 7 degrees Celsius and up.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? Like but yeah, I think if you can negotiate a couple of home playoff games, I think it changes things an awful lot.
Absolutely. Right, Nick, how are your Pats?
There's far too much political correctness on here. Everybody's playing the safe game. Right,
right, come on, give it 17-0. 17-0.
We'll do it. I'm going to be a proper Boston sports fan and set myself up to never be happy, right? 12-5.
Whoa!
one way or the other. One way or the other. No, genuinely, look, I wrote it down. I went through my list. I just did it.
Oh, he's even has as well. He's even this.
I wrote it down. My real score is 10-7. That's what I think we'll have a winning season. I just think we've got too much natural talent in the squad now. The receiving core, where we've been decimated for years, and we've got exciting prospect at QB and a competent QB mentoring them. And we've got a solid D behind us. We'll keep in games. And if we can get a winning formula going early, then, we've got Cincinnati bandages up front. They'll never fit. If we get a winning run going early, 10-7. There you go. Balls out.
Love it. Right, okay, Fraser, close this one out for us, mate. How are the Jets shaking out?
I think when you look at last season, stat-wise, if Jets had scored the average league points on offense throughout average for every team in the NFL, they'd have got an extra 5 wins last season. So I'm going to go with the changes we've got, and we've got Rodgers. I'm going to go with 11 wins next season or this season. I just can't see any way if we stay healthy we don't get at least 10 wins. I honestly can't. The roster is too talented not to get the wins. Now, I know it's probably funny because Jets will do something that the Jets always do. We don't know what it is yet, but it will happen, and it'll be another top 10 pick. We all know it's going to happen, but I've got to be optimistic. All I want to see is a playoff game at some point again. It's been far too long. So I'll go with 11 wins.
Phil, there is no way you thought that your prediction would have you bottom of the division, right?
No, who would?
The only way is up.
Yeah. Baby. Love it. So you've heard it here first, folks, how the AFC East is going to shake out this year. We are going to have the Finns on top at 12-5, followed up by the Jets at 11-6. The Pats are somehow third and 10-7, and somehow that no one's seen coming. The Bills are putting the division 9-8.
It's like the early noughties.
I ain't coming on here to lose. Listen, don't have me back on. I'm cool with that. I ain't coming on here to lose.
Enough of that for you this year.
Right. Right. Okay. Unfortunately, guys, that does bring us to the end of the episode tonight. All that's really left for me to say, I did not see that coming. All that is really left for me to say is thank you very much to you four fine gentlemen for coming on with me. Thanks everybody for listening. Now that brings us to this season preview crew to a close. We are working our way around every division, folks. Make sure you check in to catch up with the rest of them. The guys will be recording the next one later on in the week. I'm not sure if they're putting it out live or if it's going to come out recorded, but it is later this week, so you can keep your eyes open for that. Now, remember, you can find us on X. We are at Gridiron-CRU. You can get us on Instagram. It's grid_iron_crew. Stick Gridiron-CRU in everywhere you get your podcasts, and you can find us. Whipping this one round the room one final time. Phil, thank you very much for coming on tonight, mate. It's been great having you.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Cheers, mate. Lee, same to yourself, mate. Or Lee, talk to somebody else. I'll come back. Go, Lee. Cheers, mate. Thank you for coming on.
Thanks for having me on, guys. It's been fun.
Brilliant. Nick, thank you so much for coming on as well, mate. It's been brilliant hearing your take on all things Patriots.
Cheers. Anytime, lads.
And last but by no means least, Fraser, thank you for coming on again with us, mate. It has been great to get your take in all things New York Jets.
Been a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Brilliant. And with that, folks, thank you all very much, and we will catch you all in the next one. Bye.
Go Bills.